Hello, this is Kabo, and I want to talk about my ShowMonsters mod for Forge. So, as you can see, I have Minecraft Forge loaded here. I won't talk about how to install this, but I'll give a link in the description to how to install this on both servers and how to install it on clients. But basically, Forge is loaded, and now my ShowMonsters mod is loaded as well. To install the ShowMonsters mod, you simply put the zip file in the mods directory that gets created by Forge. Anyway, overall, it's pretty much the same. There are a few cosmetic changes, a few upgrades, but not much different. It works pretty much the same way. So let's go ahead and get into single player, and I can start to talk about those. Alright, so the first thing I want to mention is now the controls are a little different. The default controls are F4, and there's a second option here, right bracket. These can be configured now using key bindings set up by Forge, so you can make these whatever you want, so it's comfortable for you to use. So let's go ahead and turn it on. Now, as you can see, the list is showing the monster names and the monster weights just as before, but it's a little different. It's now shortened to 5 characters on the names, and the weights are displayed on the line below. This is just to make it a little easier for the player. It doesn't overlay across the entire screen as it did before. A little more compact, easier to use as an overlay. So that's the reason for that change. You'll also notice that there are colors here. I'll get to those in a moment, but before that, I want to mention an important change. It's now no longer displaying the at the player's head level. So before, if I were standing in that block, it would be displaying where the obsidian is. Now instead, if I were standing in this block, it would be using that block to check. So this is a change that I decided to make because it's a little more intuitive. Most people are wondering, will the mod stand or spawn where I'm standing, rather than will the mob spawn where my head is? So that's the main reason for that change. Alright, so let's go ahead and switch creature types here. If we press the toggle creature type key, you can see we're now looking at peaceful mobs. And of course, if I press it again, we can switch back to hostile mobs. So we can switch between hostile and peaceful pretty easily like that. Now on this list, you see there are different colors. This is telling me if that mob can actually spawn in the location where I'm standing. So this does pretty much all the checks based on the particular mob to see if it can spawn. So if I move off of the grass here, you can see the peaceful mobs there are no longer able to spawn, except for the bat, which is a little different. And if I say jump into the well here, go down deep enough, you can see squid are now able to spawn. And that's basically the way it works. It also works for the hostile mobs. None of them can spawn right now because it's day, but if I change it to night and wait a little bit for it to get dark, let's there we go. So now you can see all the hostile mobs are able to spawn as well. It also does the bounding box check, so if I say move underneath this tree, endermen are no longer able to spawn. If I get too close to a wall here, spiders are no longer able to spawn. So it's a little more useful in that respect. But that's all the major changes in the functionality of how the mod works. Let's now switch over to SMP and talk about that. Alright, so let's go to this little local server that I set up. Alright, let me turn that off and turn it back on. The reason for that is because it's left over from single player, and multiplayer hasn't been informed yet that I have the mod active. So now I've switched it off and switched it back on. You can see it's changing as I change my location. I can also toggle between creature types just as before. So it works pretty much the same way. It's a little slower. That's because there's a tick delay in multiplayer, and this is configurable in a config file that's set up by Forge. So you can set this to however short or however long you want. It's milliseconds right now. It's going every quarter of a second. So just information there. Also on SMP servers, there's a config option to only allow this for creative. So if, say, you don't want survival members to be able to figure out where the slime chunks are, as you can see, there's an exclamation point next to the slime chunk, or whatever like that. You can turn it off simply by toggling the flag in the config file. and it will only work for creative players in those cases. And as you can see, if I drop down low enough in this slime chunk, slimes are now able to spawn. So works pretty much the same way for SMP. And that's really all there is to the new changes in the mod. I just want to mention one more thing about compatibility with other mods. If you have a mod that adds creatures, as long as the creature gets added to the entity list, registered with the entity list class, then it will show up here. So there's not really any concern there, as long as you register whatever creatures with that class. This doesn't overwrite any existing files, so it should be more or less completely encapsulated. You can use it with any mod pretty much. I wouldn't imagine it should cause any problems, but if it does, let me know. Also, if you want to do checks for your particular mob, you need to register a callback with my mod, and there's an example included that will tell you how to do that. So for people who want to make the checks work for the green and red display for their mobs, just follow that instruction, and it's pretty easy. Other than that, there's nothing really else to talk about, so I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was to many people's liking, and thanks for watching.